The forest is quiet when the oldest trees are growing. Walk through a dense forest early in the morning and you will hear many things. Birds arguing over branches, wind brushing against leaves, small animals moving quickly through the undergrowth. But the trees that will live for centuries make no sound while they grow. The tallest oak does not announce its height while it is still a seed. And the strongest roots do their work underground where no one can see them. Money behaves in a similar way. Most people imagine wealth as something loud, flashing numbers, headlines, celebrations, proof. They expect growth to look dramatic. But after spending decades observing markets, businesses, and the strange rhythms of human behavior, I learned something that feels uncomfortable at first. The best investments rarely feel exciting in the beginning. In fact, they often feel wrong. They feel slow, quiet, unpopular. Sometimes they feel embarrassing. And sometimes they feel so ordinary that people begin to doubt them. But that discomfort, that quiet uncertainty, is often the exact place where opportunity lives. I did not learn this from formulas or spreadsheets. Numbers are useful, but they rarely explain the full picture. Investing, at its core, is a study of human nature. And human nature has a few habits that rarely change. People crave validation. They fear being wrong in public. They compare themselves constantly. And they rush toward whatever the crowd currently believes must be true. Those instincts are deeply human. But they are terrible instincts for building long-term wealth. Because the crowd is rarely early. The crowd arrives when something already feels safe. And safety in markets usually means the opportunity has already been partially consumed. I remember noticing this pattern very early in my investing life. Whenever an opportunity felt obvious and widely celebrated, it was usually already expensive. Everyone had already arrived. But when an opportunity felt quiet, uncertain, even slightly uncomfortable, the field was empty. No applause, no headlines, just silence. And silence, I eventually realized, was not the absence of opportunity. It was the protection of it. Over time, I began thinking of wealth as an invisible game, a strategic game that is rarely won through noise. The loudest people often believe they are the most powerful. But visibility invites competition, and competition erodes advantage. In nature, the most effective predators are not the loudest animals in the forest. They are the most patient. They observe, they wait, they move only when the moment presents itself. And when they move quietly. Money respects the same discipline. Early in my career, I developed a philosophy that shaped the way I think about wealth. I call it the silent advantage. The silent advantage is not about secrecy for the sake of mystery. It is about protecting clarity, protecting patience, protecting the conditions required for good decisions to compound over time. One of the first things I learned was the quiet power of not revealing everything. People are fascinated by numbers. They want to know the exact size of success. Net worth becomes a form of measurement. But once people know the number attached to you, something subtle begins to change. They stop interacting with you as a person. They interact with the number. Some become impressed. Others become resentful. Both reactions create distortions. And distortions make it harder to think clearly. I once watched a talented entrepreneur casually reveal the size of his fortune during a conversation at dinner. It seemed harmless at the time. But over the next few years, something interesting happened. New friendships appeared, but they carried strange expectations. Old relationships shifted, sometimes quietly. Some people began treating him with unnecessary admiration. Others began competing with him without saying so directly. The number had entered the room. And once the number enters the room, it rarely leaves. That experience reinforced something I had already begun to practice. True wealth does not need to announce itself. Privacy protects clarity. Another principle of the silent advantage is equally simple. Never announce your next move. Prediction is seductive. People enjoy forecasting the future because it creates attention. But attention is expensive. The moment you publicly declare a plan, you create pressure to defend it. You become attached to it. Instead of evaluating the decision calmly, you begin protecting it emotionally. And emotional decisions rarely age well. The best strategies often grow quietly, like seeds placed in soil. No one applauds a seed when it disappears underground. But the most important work happens there. Roots spread, strength builds, and by the time the tree appears above the surface, its foundation is already secure. Announcing plans too early exposes them to unnecessary noise. Opinions multiply, doubt spreads, competitors wake up. Sometimes the smartest move is simply to move quietly. Let the results speak later. Another part of the silent advantage involves protecting your edge. An investing edge rarely looks dramatic. It is often small. A deeper understanding of a business model, a longer time horizon than most investors are comfortable with, or the discipline to remain patient while others grow restless. That edge compounds quietly over time. But the moment you begin broadcasting it, the advantage begins to shrink. Human beings have a strange instinct. When we discover something valuable, we feel the urge to share it. We want recognition for discovering it. But markets reward the opposite behavior. The more people chasing the same advantage, the smaller the advantage becomes. Silence protects leverage. There is another quiet rule that reveals itself over generations. Many people assume wealth should guarantee comfort for their children. So they promise security before the children have built discipline. The intention is kindness, but the result can be fragile. I have seen families with enormous resources struggle to pass strength to the next generation, not because the children lacked intelligence, but because they were never required to struggle. Pressure builds character. Uncertainty sharpens judgment. When those experiences are removed too early, the mind never develops its full resilience. A tree that grows in perfect shelter rarely survives strong wind. Real strength is built through resistance. And resistance requires space to fail. So I have always believed that opportunity is a far greater gift than guarantees. Give someone the tools. Give them the environment to grow, but never remove the necessity of effort, because effort builds the internal structure that wealth alone cannot provide. There is also a quiet discipline surrounding success itself. Most people celebrate success publicly. It feels natural. Achievement creates excitement. But success that becomes performance quickly attracts attention, and attention attracts comparison. Comparison invites envy. Envy invites conflict. The strange truth about envy is that it rarely appears openly. It appears quietly, in subtle competition, in small criticisms, in silent resentment. Once those emotions enter your environment, they begin influencing decisions. Sometimes the healthiest victories are the ones that remain quiet. Improving life without announcing it, allowing results to exist without requiring applause. Charity carries a similar lesson. Generosity can be powerful. But when generosity becomes public performance, it begins feeding the ego instead of solving the problem. The ego is an expensive partner. It demands recognition. It seeks applause. And applause often distracts from the quiet work that creates lasting impact. The same principle applies to personal hardship. Pain shared too quickly with the world rarely transforms into wisdom. It becomes conversation. True reflection requires quiet. Some of the most important lessons in my life arrived during periods when almost no one knew what I was thinking. Silence creates space for clarity, and clarity is rare in a world filled with noise. When you observe human behavior long enough, patterns begin to reveal themselves. People rush toward excitement. They run away from discomfort. They abandon patience when validation disappears. And those instincts guide them away from the very opportunities that require patience to grow. The most valuable opportunities often begin quietly, without enthusiasm, without headlines, sometimes even with skepticism. They sit patiently while the crowd looks elsewhere. But patience is difficult for people who measure progress daily. Compounding requires time, and time requires emotional discipline. A good investment may look boring for years. A great investment may feel uncertain at the beginning. But those early seasons are where foundations are built. Over time, the pattern becomes obvious. The loud crowd pursues excitement. The quiet minority builds permanence. The difference is not intelligence. It is temperament. Calm people see further. They allow time to do its work, and they do not require constant confirmation that they are right. Something interesting happens when you become comfortable operating quietly. The pressure disappears. You no longer feel the need to impress anyone. You no longer compare every step with someone else's progress. You become comfortable being underestimated. Underestimation is a remarkable advantage. When people underestimate you, they stop watching carefully. And when they stop watching carefully, you gain freedom to think clearly. Clear thinking compounds, just like capital. Many intelligent people lose their advantage simply because they feel the need to prove something. But proving something to the crowd rarely improves your decision-making. It usually accelerates mistakes. Speed impresses people. Patience builds outcomes. And patience requires silence. The silent advantage is not a strategy designed to hide from the world. It is a discipline designed to protect the environment where clear thinking can survive. Privacy protects judgment. Silence protects patience. Humility protects relationships. And time rewards those who allow it to work. In the end, the most powerful force in investing is not brilliance. It is endurance. The ability to remain steady while others chase noise. The ability to remain quiet while others seek applause. The ability to remain patient while others rush toward comfort. Those abilities are not dramatic, but they are extraordinarily rare. And rarity is where advantage lives. Wealth built through noise rarely lasts. Wealth built through quiet discipline tends to grow roots. And once roots grow deep enough, the storms above the surface become less frightening, because strength is no longer visible. It is underground, hidden, patient, just like the tallest trees in the forest. By the time anyone notices how high they have grown, the roots beneath them have already been working in silence for decades.